أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Picking up with the series on the legendary military ideology of the Prophet ﷺ's military career. The era of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wassalam, radiallahu anhu, page number 452. We will be picking up from that page. Do want to welcome everyone. If this is your first time, whether you are from United States or outside of United States. We also wanted to remind everyone to like, subscribe, share, as well as comment as positively as possible or as clearly and sincerely as possible, whichever you like. And encourage everyone to look at the prior series of the legendary military series of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, including his military career, the Madani period, as well as the era of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam's legendary military legacy, and the legendary military government of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the era of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, and finally the era of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan, the legendary military empire of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which I believe that majority is on the Muhammadu Gambia channel compared to the Abdul Fattah Muhammad channel. And again, we are in the Bulletin 5 chapter, and the information is in regards to self-admiration. And this is going to be video number 34, if I'm not mistaken. Your humble orator, Muhammad Israel. And now we said, and I quote, the way to rid oneself of self-admiration is to know that knowledge is a blessing from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and a complete favor that belongs to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, which He may take away, and that belongs to Him which He gives, and everything has an appointed time with Him. So a person should not develop self-admiration for something that he had nothing to do with and has no control over and is not certain that it will last. End quote. Ibn Qayyim said, open quote, it should be noted that when a person says or does something seeking the pleasure of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, realizing the blessing of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has bestowed by enabling him to do or say it, and knowing that Allah Jalla Jalaluhu helped him with regard to that thing in which he had done or is doing it by the help of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu's mercy alone, and not by his own power, knowledge, thought, and strength. Rather, it is Allah Jalla Jalaluhu alone who created for him his tongue, his heart, and eyes, ears. Therefore, he is the one who blessed him with what he said or what he did. Allah Ta'ala is the one who gave us that ability, not ourselves. If that was the case, then we would be born ourselves. We will beget ourselves, but that is not the case. We have parents, and that's proof that we have creator, because our parents also had parents. With the exception of Adam alayhi salatu wassalam, everybody else had one or the other. In the case of Hawa, she had a father, which was Adam, but no mother. In the case of Isa, he had a mother but no father. In the case of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we all have a mother and a father. There's a fourth category, but let's move on. When that becomes well entrenched in the person's mind, self-admiration will not develop in him, because self-admiration results from focusing on one's own self and not realizing the blessing and help of one's Lord. Now, I'm going to end the quote. As for the other remedy for self-admiration, it is to know oneself and to keep taking stock of oneself. Ibn Al-Jawzi said, and I quote, "Whoever thinks of the inclinations of his own self and the sins that his self is committing will realize his sins and shortcomings for certain and will be uncertain with regard to other people. What he must be aware of is self-admiration and exaggerating about the righteous deeds that he is doing for the hereafter. The believer in that regard is always thinking little of himself because the hereafter is so large and the people can't do anything about stopping it from coming, and they won't be able to do anything when they get there." It was said to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, "If you die, we will bury you in the chamber of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." He said, "If I meet Allah with all kinds of sin except for polytheism, that is dearer to me than thinking of myself as qualified for being buried there." End quote. Ibn Hazim said, open quote, "Whoever is tested with self-admiration, let him think of his faults. If he admires his virtues, let him think of his manners, his bad manners and attitude. If he cannot find any to that point, he thinks that he had no fault, then he should realize that his problem is chronic and that he is the most imperfect man alive, even if he won the US presidency." It doesn't say that, but let's get back. "And has the most fault and least discernment. That is because he is feeble-minded and ignorant, and there is no fault worse than these two. Because the wise man is the one who can see faults in himself and tries to overcome them, whereas the foolish man, foolish individual, is the one who is ignorant of his own faults. If you admire your opinions, then think of the number of times when you got it wrong. Remember them and do not forget them. Think of every time you express your opinion and it turned out to be wrong, like injecting Clorox into people's stomach." Subhanallah. But again, every time you thought you were suggesting something which was absolutely wrong and someone else got it right and you were mistaken. If you admire your knowledge, then remember that it is not from yourself. Rather, it is pure gift from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu that was given to you by your Lord. For example, walking, talking, eating on your own. These are all things, movement. These are all things that are purely from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu alone, which may result in you forgetting what you have learned and memorized. If you are impressed by your brother's praise for you, then think of the criticism of your enemies. Then your self-admiration will disperse. If you have no enemies, there is nothing good in you. There is no one whose status is lower than the one who has no enemies. It is no more than the status of one who has no blessing from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu for which to be envied. May Allah Jalla Jalaluhu keep us safe and sound. If you think little of your faults, then think of them if people found out about them. Imagine people finding out about them. Then you will be embarrassed and will recognize your shortcomings. End quote. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah said, speaking about the wisdom behind the divine decree allowing evil deeds and sins, that one of the reasons for this is that when Allah Jalla Jalaluhu wills good for his slave, he causes him to forget his acts of obedience and erases them from his mind and from his lips, so that he does not speak about them. But if he commits a sin, he makes him think about his sin all the time and forget his good deeds, so that he focuses constantly on his sin when he stands up and sits down, when he comes and goes. This is the essence of mercy concerning him. And one of the early generation learned people said, a person may commit a sin and into paradise because of it, and he may do a good deed and into hellfire because of it. They said, how is that possible? He said, he does one wrong thing and keeps thinking of it. And whenever he remembers it, he weeps, feels regret, and repents, and asks for forgiveness. He turns to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and beseeches Him, and he humiliates himself before Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and does righteous deeds. So this becomes a cause of mercy for him. Another person may do a good deed and keep thinking about it, so he feels proud of it before his Lord and before people, and he becomes arrogant, like the Iblises that they have around these days, building and involved in US politics, where they're trying to act as if they're so rightfully following the right thing, although they're trying to be just like non-Muslims. Another person may do a good deed, again, let's go over that, and keep thinking about it. So he feels proud of it before his Lord and before people, and becomes arrogant because of it, and wonders why people do not show respect to him and honor him because of it. And this continues until it takes its toll on that individual and causes him to enter the hellfire. End quote. This is a brief explanation of the words of Amirul Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib pertaining to self-admiration. And I quote, self-admiration is a disease of the mind and heart. 3.7, Ali's concern radiallahu anhu about setting guidelines for the marketplace and various incidents in which he took a stand in order to correct the people. Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu was keen to check on people's dealings in the marketplace and to force them to do business in accordance with the laws of Al-Islam. It is proven that Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu gave a great deal of attention to checking on and inspecting the marketplace. It was narrated from Al-Hur ibn Jarmuz al-Muradi that his father said, and I quote, I saw Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu come out of the palace wearing two striped garments. His lower garment came to mid-calf and his upper garment was wrapped tightly around him. He was carrying his stick and walking around in the marketplace, enjoining them to fear Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and be honest in dealing. He said, give just measure, and do not take out the marrow from bones when selling meat. End quote. It was narrated that Abu Matar said, and I quote, I came out of the mosque and heard a man calling out from behind me, lift up your lower garment, for that is cleaner for your garment and more pleasing to your Lord. And cut your hair if you are a Muslim. I walked behind him. He was wearing the waist wrapper and an upper garment on his shoulders, and he was carrying a stick as if he were a Bedouin of the desert. I said, who is this? A man said to me, you must be a stranger in the city. I said, yes, I am from Basra. He said, this is Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amirul Mu'mineen. When he reached the place of Ibn Abi Ma'ayt, he saw him driving his camels and said, sell and do not swear an oath, for an oath may cause an item to be sold, but it erases the blessing. Then he went to the date sellers and saw a female servant weeping. He said, why are you weeping? She said, this man sold me some dates for a dirham, but my master refused to accept them. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu said to him, take your dates and give her a dirham, for she has nothing to do with it. And he gave her the dirham. I said, do you know who this is? He said, no. I said, this is Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amirul Mu'mineen. So she gave back the dates and he gave her a dirham. Then the man said, I would like you to be pleased with me, O Amirul Mu'mineen. He said, why should I be pleased with you if you give people their dues? Because there should be nothing special about that. Then he passed by the date sellers and said, O date sellers, feed the poor, and your earning will increase. Then he went with the Muslimin with him until he came to the fish sellers and said, no fish that was found floating dead should be sold in our marketplace. Then he went to Dar Furat, which is the market of the cotton cloth. It was narrated that Zadan said Ali radiallahu anhu used to walk in the marketplace on his own, guiding those who had gone astray and helping the weak. He would pass by the sellers and grocers and would start with them reciting Quran, and he would recite, and I quote, that home of the hereafter example, in other words, paradise, we shall assign to those who rebel not against the truth with pride and oppression in the land, nor do mischief by committing crimes. Quran, Surah number 28, ayah number 83. Then he said this ayah was revealed concerning just and humble people among the governors and people in power to exclusion of other people, end quote. Al-Khalal narrated with his chain of narration that Abu Sa'id said, and I quote, Ali radiallahu anhu used to go to the marketplace and say, O people of the marketplace, fear Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and beware of swearing oaths, for an oath may help to sell the item, but it erases the blessing. Traders are evil except the one who takes his dues and pays his dues. Peace be upon you. Then he left. Then he came back to them and said something similar to them, end quote. It was narrated that Abu Ashahba said, and I quote, I saw Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu in Shatta al-Qala asking about prices. This direct supervision on the part of Amirul Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib may indicate a number of things, including the following. Inshallah, we will end it here on page number 456. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسم ربك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.